Ciao everyone, and welcome to Green Wings Migration YouTube channel. My name is Eleonora Romanini. I'm a registered migration agent here in Perth, and I'm happy to talk to you about the differences between 190 and 491 visa. These two visas, they belong to the skill visa category. So we're talking about visas that are granted if you are invited by a state or a territory to apply for that particular visa pathway. Many people always think that these visas can be accessed at any point in time. I would like to debunk this myth today, going through the different steps and the different requirements that you need to meet in order to be able to hope to be invited for the visas. So let's start by saying that there is not just one 190 program and one 491 program. Every state has their own migration program, and within this context, they can issue invitations for visa 190 and visa 491. The word invitation is key in this case. Even if you read about the visas and you feel like you are eligible for it, you cannot directly apply for it as you do for the other visa kind. It's always about being invited, and you might receive an invitation after lodging what we call expression of interest. Effectively, you express your interest for this visa through a state, and the criteria for which you are invited are essentially set by the state itself. So at a very basic level, the Department of Home Affairs, so the Federal Immigration Department, they set out the basic requirements that all prospect applicants must meet in order to hope for an invitation to be issued. But then each individual state can set differences so that the program is tailored to their specific needs. So for example, you may find that one occupation is available, in Western Australia, but is not available in the Northern Territory. Or maybe you can find that New South Wales has some criteria that are not applicable in Queensland. Or also you have some states like WA, for example, who invites on a regular monthly basis. And other states have not yet opened their program or will not invite on a regular basis throughout the year, but maybe they just do it, on a quarterly basis, on a bi-monthly basis, whichever is their preferred timeline for invitations. So now that we've had a general understanding of how the program works, let's deep dive into the basic criteria that you must meet in order to lodge a valid expression of interest. First of all, you must be 45 years old or younger. And depending on the age bracket that you fall under, you will receive different amount of points for your age. Ideally, the best category is people who are aged 26 to 32, or not more than 33, because they receive 30 points for being young. And of course, a young migrant is a migrant who can contribute probably more to the economy, who will have less reliance on the medical system. So there are some factors that allow this age bracket to be the best considered. The second category for points attribution is how well you speak English. So at a very basic level, you must have competent English, which is IELTS 6 or PTE 50. Just remember that when I say these numbers, I really mean in each component of the two tests. It's not an overall that you have, but it's in each component 50 or in each component 6. However, simply have basic competent English is not enough to achieve points. So the next bracket up would be for IELTS 7 or PTE 65, which allows you to claim 10 points, and the very high 79 PTE or 8 in IELTS, which allows you to claim 20 points. It must be said, and it's undeniable, that people with a better level of English have higher chances of being invited sooner. Not only because it boosts the amount of points that they can claim, but also and foremost because they are more attractive migrants. They are people that can integrate more in the society, can contribute more and more readily to the job environment, work environment where they are going to fit. The other category of points that you might claim is about your qualifications. So here, sometimes there is a little bit of a confusion. So if you have an Australian qualification that equates to a certificate 3, 4 diploma, advanced diploma, then you are able to claim 10 points. If you have a non-Australian qualification that compares to this level and is also positively assessed by the Skills Assessing Authority, then you can also claim 10 points. 15 points are connected to bachelor degrees and master degrees. So those two qualifications give you the same amount of points. If you complete a PhD, then you have the maximum amount of points that you can claim, which is 20. Further to the qualifications, we also assess your work experience. Now, bear in mind that you do not necessarily have to have work experience in order to be able to lodge a valid expression of interest, because you may achieve 65 points regardless of claiming points for your work experience. However, because you have to go through a skills assessment phase, and we discuss later what it means, Skills Assessing Authority may impose on you to demonstrate certain amount of work experience. Okay? So even if potentially when you try to calculate your points online, it seems like you achieve 65 even in absence of work experience, remember that you might need to have certain amount of work experience anyway, because you have to go through the skills assessment phase first. Back to the points for experience, there is always a higher weight given to Australian experience compared to overseas. So from overseas, you need at least 3 years of work experience to be able to claim 5 points. But if your experience is accrued in Australia, only 12 months equate to 5 points. So obviously, if you manage to come to Australia and work for a certain amount of time under, for example, a working holiday visa or a sponsor visa, even student visas, to be honest, because the experience must be at least 20 hours per week in order to be able to claim points, then you can add value to your points test. In connection to studies, we also have the fact that you might have studied in Australia for a period of at least 2 years, which gives you 5 bonus points. If the studies were conducted in regional Australia, it's another 5 bonus points. If your English is so good and you're so competent that you can also pass the community language test by NATI, you receive another 5 bonus points. In certain occupations, IT and engineering, you might attend a sort of apprenticeship program that you pay for, that's called professional year. And if you go through the professional year, then you might also be able to claim additional 5 points. Always connected to qualifications, if you studied a STEM master qualification in Australia, you are able to claim additional points as well. And finally, something that I think it's a bit controversial, it can create a lot of confusion, it's about your marital status. So if you are single or in a relationship with an Australian citizen or permanent resident, you can claim 10 points. If you are not single and you are either married or in a de facto relationship, and the other person is migrating with you and they can claim competent English, they can contribute 5 points to your points test. If your partner is not only migrating with you, but they're also under 45 years of age, they pass competent English and they obtain a positive skills assessment, then they can contribute with 10 points. Okay? So having a skilled couple in this sense, it's obviously better for Australia because they can get 2 skilled people with the price of 1, so to speak. So they reward this through giving you the possibility to claim 10 points on the points test. Now bear in mind, if someone is migrating with you, they cannot contribute with English, they cannot contribute with their skills, you will not be able to claim any point at all, okay? And this is, in my opinion, a bit unfair. I think the discussion within the department during the last consultation round was that this system, this way of attributing points, it is not fair. So they are going to rediscussing and potentially change it, but it hasn't happened yet. So just so that you are aware, if you have a partner, they are migrating with you, but they're not contributing to the points test, you still need to declare them, because otherwise you will be lying, saying that you're single when you're not. But including them will not allow you to claim any point. On this last bit, there are many issues where people claim not to be in a relationship so that they can obviously claim the 10 bonus points, but then further down the track, they go and lodge a partner visa, for example, without considering the implications of this new visa that you're going to lodge. So obviously, if you get a permanent residency visa claiming that you're single, and then as soon as the permanent residency visa is approved, you lodge a partner visa application for your partner. In most cases, it means you were not single before, okay? So the department can actually consider revisiting the decision of giving you the visa, canceling your visa, and not approving the next one for your partner. So just be careful. If you are unsure, always check with a professional so they can give you the best solution, which might not necessarily be what you wanted to hear, but at least you're safe that nothing is going to be compromised. I briefly touched before on the skills assessment. So another criteria that you must meet to make sure that you lodge a valid expression of interest is passing a skills assessment in your profession, in your job. Every job has an assigned skills assessing authority. The most famous ones being, VET-Assess, Trades Recognition Australia, the Australian Computer Society, the medical boards if you have a medical profession, and so on and so forth. So going through the skills assessment is compulsory. You cannot aim to a skill visa without having obtained a full skills assessment first. The criteria for the skills assessment change depending on the assessing authority that you have to use. Certain assessing authorities are happy to consider you a skilled person simply based on completing certain qualifications. Some others want you to have gained hands-on experience in a highly relevant role before assessing you positively. So you always need to check with your relevant assessing authority and see what their criteria are. On this point, which is again another point that creates confusion, I have a very specific example that is relevant to Western Australia. If you look on the WA website, when they discuss about their state nomination criteria, you will see that you don't necessarily need to meet specific experience levels in order to be nominated by WA. A person who doesn't have background knowledge of the program may think, okay, I have completed a diploma in hospitality management after 2 years of study in WA, so I can definitely go ahead and lodge an expression of interest for 190 or 491 in WA. Well, that's not the case, because since you have to have a positive skills assessment, you have to also deal with VET-Assess preventively. And when you check VET-Assess criteria, you will see that they want you to have work experience in connection to the qualification that you have achieved. Now, the amount of work experience changes depending on the qualification that you hold, when you got it, where you got it, etc., etc. Okay, but don't make the mistake to lodge an expression of interest soon after having completed your qualification, diploma, whatever it is, without having checked what criteria the skills assessing authority wants you to meet. Okay. This is different for civil engineering draft people, for example. If they attend the 2 years course that's accredited by Engineers of Australia, they will get a skills assessment straight out after their studies, and they will be able to lodge an expression of interest much sooner than a restaurant manager or a chef. So every situation is really different. Every person may be influenced by the legislation in a different way. And again, always check with someone who knows better so you're sure that you are on the right pathway. Now, fast forward to the invitation round. So you're now ready. So you got your skills assessment, you got your English, you lodge your expression of interest. What do you do now? You wait. Because every state has different time frame for invitations, as we said originally. So soon or later, maybe an invitation may come. Will not necessarily come. So just always remember that skill visas in general are never a given. Even if on paper you look like the perfect candidate to receive an invitation, you may not get it. And it's always your responsibility to make sure that you have alternative pathways in place to follow to maintain your lawful residency in Australia while you wait for an invitation to come through. At this stage, you may have expressed an interest in either visa 190 or 491. And the question comes down to which one is better. There is no straight out answer to this. In my personal opinion, a visa it's better than no visa. Okay, so if you do have an option to go for either or these options, follow it. Do not concentrate necessarily to wanting to become a permanent resident or nothing else. I mean, I've been there, I understand how important it is, but at some point in a current climate, you see things are changing pretty quickly as well. If you really want to migrate, settle with the idea that a provisional visa such as 491, it's better than no visa at all if you focus only and solely in getting a permanent residency through visa 190. What are the main differences? So the main differences, well, first of all, one is a permanent visa. From the day 190 is approved, you officially become permanent resident in Australia. The other one is provisional, so it's approved for 5 years, and it does open a certain and definitive way to become permanent resident after 3 years of holding that visa. And visa 190 also asks for a commitment to live for 2 years in the state that nominated you originally, whilst 491 visa asks for a commitment to live for 3 years in a regional area of the state who invited you. And this clarifies also why, if you elect a preference towards visa 491, the state will gift you 15 bonus points on the points test. If you elect visa 190, the state will only gift you 5 bonus points. So there is a tendency from each and every state to prefer visa 491s because they allow you, or actually they impose on you the need to stay in the state for a longer period of time, for 3 years before being able to become a permanent resident. Becoming a permanent resident obviously will open up some rights and possibilities to you, like getting certain supports, for example, social services and whatnot. So if you are in a territory for a longer period of time, you contribute more, and you're also able to claim less. That's a perfect match for the state for trying to grow their population and to keep the population in those territories for a longer period of time. At the same time though, when visa 491 is approved, you receive the possibility to enroll fully in Medicare, which is in most cases the big determination, the big factor that people take into consideration. When you have a temporary visa, you have to have a private health insurance. When you are on a permanent visa, you can choose to keep your private health insurance, which is always recommendable, or to let it go because it's not sustainable, not financially viable, not needed, whatever your reasons are. When you are on a provisional visa, you can use Medicare the same way that a permanent resident does, okay? So if you have, rightfully dreams of growing your family or issues that arise along the way, life happens and you need to receive medical support, even a 491 visa can provide you with anything you need from the Medicare scheme. So effectively, the biggest difference at this point is just that, yes, you don't become permanent resident right away, you need to wait a little bit longer, which on the long run influences how quickly you can apply for your citizenship. So as you know, to become a citizen, you need to have been in Australia for 4 years at least, legally, of course, and one of those 4 years needs to be spent as a permanent resident. So clearly, if you obtain permanent residency as soon as possible, it means that you can also apply for your citizenship as soon as possible. If you go through a provisional pathway, then it takes a little bit longer. Is it worth it to, gamble everything on the idea that citizenship may be delayed? In my opinion, not. But it's also true that I come from a country where, double citizenship is allowed and we don't have massive issues back then. It doesn't work perfectly, but it's not so detrimental to live in Italy. So obviously this is a very personal choice. I always just simply suggest people to consider carefully whether they really want to focus exclusively on the 190 or they might be open to consideration of the 491 as well. So that's all I've got for you for today. I hope if you find it interesting. If you have any other questions that you want to ask me, please feel free to send emails or comments below in the video. And as always, we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.